of you may definitely have done Pythagoras and area and perimeter already. That's absolutely fine. This will hopefully be a bit of a refresher. We're starting it now together though. Okay, however, before we get into perimeter and area and all of those things, we're starting with Pythagoras. This worked last year. I'm hoping it's going to work again this year. Hello. Okay, so fine. Don't know if you can see, but basically in the video, what's happening is water is pouring out.
Is it possible to go up a little bit so we can see? We don't see. No, it's not. There we go.
Okay, let's try another way.
I think now it is at the center. Yeah.
The first day that we signed up for.
Okay. Right. Let's try it like this. Okay, we can see this woman about to talk to us, which we don't really want to.
Yeah, now we can see clearly.
Already able to connect our.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Right. So what we have is a right angle triangle, and the water's pouring out of the two other sides and filling up the third. Okay. And this is basically what Pythagoras is. Now, importantly, it's a right angle triangle that is being worked with here. And essentially, this visual represents what the Pythagoras theorem is. I'm going to chat about it now in a second, but like I say, visually, this is what the Pythagorean theorem is. The Pythagorean theorem helps us work out the length of any side in a right-angled triangle. So if we look at this not so great image, I don't know why I couldn't find a better one, but we're going to work with it. If we have a look here, what we have is our right-angled triangle in the middle, triangle ABC. And if we have a look at the blocks down the side, we can see that the side length AB is 3 blocks long. Our side length, come on, BC is 4 blocks long. And these two sides allow us to work out the third side. Now, it doesn't always have to be these two specific sides. It can be any side in a triangle, but this is sort of the basis of Pythagoras. So Pythagoras says if we square these sides, so if we square a side that's 3 units long, we end up with 9. And this is why we end up with 9 blocks in total here. And if we square a side that's 4 blocks long, we end up with 16 blocks. This is why we have 16 blocks in total on this pink block. If we take those two things and we add those 2 blocks together, we end up with the third side squared. So if we have a look, we've got 9 from our yellow blocks, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we've got 16 from our pink blocks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And so when we add the square of our sides together, we are able to get the third side squared. And this is where Pythagoras comes from. I just want to remind you guys, if you have questions, please put them on the chat. We only raise our hands when I tell you you can. So if you've got any questions, concerns, you're struggling with something, just put it on the chat for us and we'll help you. Okay, so guys, the theorem of Pythagoras says, his name is quite long, unfortunately, Pythagoras, tells us that the hypotenuse squared, which we represent with an H, and I'll write it out in terms of this triangle now in a second, is equal to the sum of our other 2 sides squared. Okay, so if we relate it to this specific triangle over here, if you guys just listen to me, I am actually repeating it right now. So if we relate it to this triangle over here, our hypotenuse is always the side opposite our right angle. So AC squared is equal to our 2 other sides squared. So AB squared plus BC squared. So Pythagoras allows us to work out the side or the length of any side in our right angled triangle by looking at squaring the lengths of our sides. Okay, so importantly again, the side opposite our right angle is what we call our hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. I'm going to write it here for you as well. So it's always opposite the right angle. And it is always longest side. And so if we have a look at our hypotenuse squared, it is equal to the sum of the squares of the two other sides. Okay, so Sanania's put there on the chart, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the two other sides. That's all Pythagoras is. So it allows us to work out side lengths if we only have two of the three. Now, this is obviously important when we get to sections like area and perimeter and so on, being able to work out lengths in case we need it. Okay, grade 8, we have had 10 minutes of this lesson and we're not listening. Okay, I'm not fighting with you. You're not going to listen. That's absolutely fine. Rather log off and you can watch the recording. So I'm going to say this again one more time. The hypotenuse squared, so h squared is the hypotenuse squared, is equal to the sum of the square of our two other sides. Okay, so our hypotenuse is always opposite the 90-degree angle, as I've written in blue at the top, and is always going to be the longest side in our triangle, always. If we want to work out any side length, it doesn't matter whether it's the hypotenuse or not, we can use the theorem of Pythagoras. The theorem of Pythagoras works in right-angled triangles only. And it tells us, once again, that the hypotenuse squared, so the side opposite our 90-degree angle, is equal to the two other sides squared and added together. And that is what I have written twice as both the h squared equals a squared plus b squared, h being hypotenuse, as you can see, as well as if we relate it to the triangle AC, which is our hypotenuse, is equal to the two other sides squared and added together, AB plus BC squared. And that is what Pythagoras is and what we do with it. Right, so now if you have questions, you may raise your hand, but I promise you I've repeated this about 3 times, so if we're not listening, I am going to be quite upset. We only raise hands for those of you who are asking why you can't talk in the class is because we've got 130 students in the class, and if we just allow students to talk whenever they want, it does become a bit chaotic, so we wait for the time to raise our hands. It also means that you can think about your question carefully and you can listen to what I'm saying carefully and make sure that you are not repeating anything. Sabiso?
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, so ma'am, when you know that AB plus BC squared is equal to AC squared, how do you find the angle?
Okay, but we're not looking for the angle, we are looking for the side. I said here that the theorem of Pythagoras allows us to find the length of any side. So the theorem of Pythagoras isn't using angles, we're looking for sides.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so guys, really importantly, Pythagoras is not talking about finding an angle size, it is looking at the side length. Okay, we are not looking at angles, we are looking at side length. Ravi? There should be a pop-up to unmute yourself.
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah?
Ma'am, I just wanted to say that, if you want to
Ravi,
get
you need to go closer to your speaker. I can't quite hear you.
Okay, ma'am. I was saying that if you want to get the 90 degrees, can you please explain that again? Because I didn't really understand the
Okay,
thing.
so we're not getting 90 degrees. 90 degrees is given to you, so we will tell you it's a right angle. You are then looking for the side length, so you will be given the 90 degrees.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, I just
Okay,
wanted to.
okay, so we will give you the right angle triangle.
All right.
Okay, grade 8. Our listening skills are at an all-time low. The okay, I can't do this. Actually, do you know what? Let me not waste my time. Right. I need you to listen. I'm explaining this one more time. And unfortunately, if you don't then understand, you need to ask your questions on the chat and you need to rewatch the video. So what you will be given is a right angled triangle. Okay, so we will give you the 90 degrees. You don't have to stress about trying to show that or anything. We will give that to you. So you will be given a right angled triangle, and you are then going to be expected to work out side lengths, right? And this is where the theorem of Pythagoras comes in. So here's my right angled triangle. Okay, it's not the greatest triangle I've ever drawn in my life, but whatever. And we will give you, no, we're focusing on what's happening in this conversation right now. Any other questions, you need to stop. Here's my right angled triangle. Okay, I'm going to label this triangle A, B, C. I don't know what the labels are, but we've got our right angled triangle. So importantly, the side opposite the hypotenuse is the side opposite the hypotenuse. The side opposite the right angle is called my hypotenuse. So this side AC is my hypotenuse. And Pythagoras says that my hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum, so adding together the two other sides that I have, so AB, which is the side down here, plus the third side, which is BC squared. And this is what Pythagoras says to me. It says that I can take two sides in my triangle and I can use them to work out my third side. That is what Pythagoras is. So this stuff that I've written in top here with all the colors going on, this is the theorem of, oh, his name is so long, Pythagoras. Okay, so Pythagoras was a mathematician. He discovered that if you take AB squared, so the length in blue, plus BC squared, the length in yellow, you will get the length of the hypotenuse in purple squared. And we can use that to work out any side length in our triangles. All right, so the side opposite the 90-degree angle is my hypotenuse. We can use that in order, and we can use the information we're given to find one of the missing sides in my triangle. Alrighty, so this is what Pythagoras says to us. Are we all okay? Does anyone have any questions before we have a look at an example? If you can't see your screen, guys, remember you need to log out and log back in. If you're still struggling, you need to unpin and then repin my screen. And if you're still struggling, you need to message Yolanda or myself, and then we will help you from there. But those are the two things you need to do first. If at any point you can't hear, you need to double check your audio selection, or again, log out and log back in again. Right, so I'm asking again, does anyone have any questions? Raise your hand or put it on the chat. Are we okay with what Pythagoras is? Because now we're going to put it into practice. Okay, I'm going to leave this up here in case you want to screenshot this version of Pythagoras. Once we start doing examples, like Yolanda said, it does become a little bit easier to understand, but I'm going to keep pointing out this information here as we go through our examples. Okay. Right, so if we have a look at our very first example, so it's saying determine the unknown length of the following. So the first thing that we're going to do, guys, it would also help if I could spell unknown, is we are going to identify for ourselves which length we don't know. Now, the length we don't know will be the one that doesn't have a measurement on it. So in this question, that would be side AC. Gabriela, I don't understand what it's 51 means. I'm not too sure. And if you're trying to give me an answer, just hang on for a second. We're going to get there. Like I say, all we're doing right now is we're identifying our unknown length. Okay, that's all we're doing right now, guys. We first see where's the unknown. Okay, it's the one without a measurement or a dimension on it. And we highlight that for ourselves. We always then double check, is it the hypotenuse? So I go to my right angle. Here's my right angle. I pretend I'm standing at my right angle and I'm looking directly opposite me. If the side I've highlighted is directly opposite me, that is then my hypotenuse. So in this case, I am looking for my hypotenuse in this right angled triangle. I have the other two sides. I have AB and I have BC. I am just looking for the third side, AC. Okay, so let's go back to what Pythagoras says we must do. Pythagoras says that we must take our hypotenuse squared and we must then square our two other sides and add them together. So in this triangle, that would be side AB plus side BC squared. Now, guys, whenever we do Pythagoras, what we want to do is we always, because this is like a geometry idea, we always put the reason Pythag. Remember, reasons you can abbreviate, so I don't expect you to write out Pythagoras. We just put Pythag there. That's to tell your teacher or to tell your marker that you are using the theorem of Pythagoras in order to answer this question. Okay, so once you've made your first statement, just put Pythag there, then you're done. You don't have to stress about it again. So once we know what we're working with, we can now start to substitute in. Now, I don't know what my hypotenuse is. We can say it's AC squared because that is the label for my hypotenuse, but we don't know its value. However, we do know what AB's value is. Right, so if we go here, AB's value is this 36 centimeters on the side. Because I know that, I can substitute that value in. So 36 squared. If I now go back to my triangle, I want to see, do I know BC's length? Yes, I do. It's given to me as 15 centimeters because BC is the side length down at the bottom. And because I know what BC is, once again, I can substitute in that value of 15 squared. So once I know what information I have, I can start substituting into my equation. Right, so again, we still don't know what AC is. We're going to come back to that. But we are able to square 36 and 15. So 36 squared is 1,296. 15 squared is 225. So that means that when I add those two values together, I get that AC squared is equal to 1,521. Now, grade 8s, just hang on. You're all putting this on the chat, but just wait. What we want, and this is really important, what we're trying to solve for, so we want AC, not AC squared. So we need to get rid of the square. Now, we know from solving equations that the inverse operation of squaring something is to square root it. And so that would be our next step. I'm going to do that now. I just want to move the full down for myself, otherwise I'm going to run out of space. Okay, so we don't want AC squared, we want AC. So that means I need to go and square root both sides of my equation because that will get rid of my squared. And so what we now want is the square root of 1,521. Now you do that on your calculator. There's nothing we need to stress about. We just square root that value and we get a final answer for AC of 39 centimeters. Now I knew it was centimeters because my question had centimeters in it. And so I knew what my unit for my answer needed to be. So grade 8, really importantly, when we are using Pythagoras, firstly, it is a geometric concept. So we have to give the reason Pythag. We identify where our hypotenuse is so that we know which sides we are working with. And then we need to remember that we do not want AC squared, we want AC. So we need to get rid of that squared. And to do that, we use the square root. Okay, so Semtanda asks, how many marks do we get for a question like this? Semtanda, it really depends on the level of the question. This sort of question would be worth 3 marks, 4 marks at most, but 3 to 4 marks for a Pythagoras type question is sort of your standard mark allocation. Okay, Gabriela, I don't understand. If we understand something, do we still carry on with the same topic? I don't know if you mean with Watobe. I don't know if you mean at school. I'm carrying on with Pythagoras for 2 weeks. So yes, we'll carry on with Pythagoras until we're done with the topic. Yes, we get more complicated questions. We'll have a look at those types of questions as we go along. But yeah, we carry on. So Mila, yes, you have to square root. You want AC, you don't want AC squared. So to get rid of the square root, to get rid of the square, we have to use a square root. Gabriela, unfortunately, this is not the time for other questions. You are welcome to go and watch the videos online in order to get that, but we're doing Pythagoras right now, okay? Yolanda said right at the start of the lesson that we focus on the topic at hand, so let's remain focused. Alrighty. Imanati, yes, 39 times 39 gives us that 1,521. So yes, that's how we got 39. Okay, so guys, again, when I say you may raise your hands, Gabriela, I'm sorry, I'm not too sure what the problem is. Watobe, what? Please feel free to raise your hand and let us know what the issue is. Yeah, let us know. So guys, we only raise our hands when I say so, because otherwise we become jumbled and we sort of all start talking over each other. So when I say raise hands, absolutely, you've got questions, you must ask them. But also just remember that until then, you are welcome to put them in the chat. And as you can see, I'm going through questions, so I will answer your question. But just wait for me to say raise your hands to raise your hands. All right, so if anyone still has a question that they would like to raise their hand for, please by all means raise your hand to let us know what the problem is or whatever your question is, and we'll help you. And then we're going to hopefully have a look at another example. Yes, Gabriela. There should be a pop-up to unmute yourself. You just have to click it and then you should be able to unmute. All right, I'm moving on. Siamtanda.
Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, for this kind of question at school, you do it in another way. So we usually say we do the first part, which we say AB squared. Okay, and then after that, we put a square root and put like 36 squared plus 15 squared. And then we put Pythag on the next here.
That's absolutely fine. So I'm just doing it really step by step. You are more than welcome to do that. It's sort of making the whole working out shorter, but that's absolutely fine.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Good. Butle?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I was asking, how did you get 1,296?
Okay, so the 1,296 has come from me typing 36 squared onto my calculator. So 36 times 36 gives me the 1,296.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Cool. Sandawake?
Okay, ma'am, how did you cancel for 39?
Okay, so the answer of 39, there you go, is from taking the square root of 1,521. So if I do square root 1,521, that's where I get the 39 from. So I have to square root it because I don't want that squared anymore. And so in order to get rid of the squared, I need to do the square root.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Okay, because remember, we don't want AC squared, we want AC. So we have to get rid of the squared. Okay. Okay, grade 8. I'm going to be honest, the behavior is poor. We are at a point right now where I'm either going to end this lesson because you're wasting everyone's time, or I'm going to remove you. So if you cannot focus on the chat, you will be removed. And I completely agree, Aminati, 37 minutes in and we've done one question. That is unacceptable. You need to focus and you need to ask your questions as you have them on the chat. Gabriella, I'm coming to you again. If you can't unmute, then again, put your concerns on the chat and we will help you. There should be a pop-up that will allow you to unmute yourself. Okay, Gabriella, you're not unmuting yourself and you did say you had a concern or a question, so you need to now direct message Yolanda or myself. Right, so guys, if we have a look at question B, in grade 8, please, like by all means, if the chat's annoying you, just close it. Like I promise you, I'm gonna close it as well if you guys start nonsense. So that will then mean that I'm gonna ignore your questions. For you guys, you are welcome to close the chat and only open it when you need to ask a question or post an answer. Otherwise, minimize it. You don't need to see other people's nonsense. You don't have to stress about it. Okay, so guys, if we have a look at question B, again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at which side do I not know? And we're first going to identify our hypotenuse. So remember, hypotenuse, is opposite the right angle. And so if here I am at my right angle, if I look directly opposite myself, look at that, that's the side I don't know. So my hypotenuse is the side that I don't know. That is the X value that I'm looking for. So once again, this is my hypotenuse. Okay, now that I know that, I can very clearly see that I have my two other sides. I've got 12 that I know the length of, as well as 9 that I know the length of. So we can now set up our Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so hypotenuse squared hypotenuse is equal to our two other side squares. We've got 12 squared and we have got 9 squared. And those are being added, added together. Remember, we put our Pythagoras as our reason, just Pythag, no need to do any more than that. And we can now solve. Now, guys, the hypotenuse is x, right? We can see that on our diagram. That's not anything too confusing. Hopefully, we've got the x squared because that's my hypotenuse. So x squared is equal to 12 squared, which is 144, plus 9 squared, which is 81. And so we get that x squared is equal to 225. Now, again, we don't want x squared, we want x. So we need to square root in order to get rid of our squared. And we want to square root the 225. Remember, it's inverse operations. What you do on one side of your equation, you have to do on the other side as well. The square root of 225 is 15. Now, guys, there's no units here. I haven't said 9 centimeters or 9 millimeters, so we'll just say 15 units. There is definitely some unit of measurement. We just don't know what that unit is. So we just write units down. It doesn't matter if there's no units. It definitely is some unit. We just don't know what it is. All right, so we always identify our sides. We identify our hypotenuse. And once we know that, we can see what it is that we're working with. Shana, yeah, you can use Pyth, that's fine. As long as you are giving your reason and it is a reason that either your teacher or myself has given you, that is absolutely fine, no problem there. Yeah, just remember your reason. That's the biggest thing. Okay, grade 8, do we have any questions that we need to raise our hands for? Remember, again, you always put questions on the chat. Okay, there's a question here that's come through. The letters A, B, C are not important. No, A, B, C, so if you go quickly back up to question A, the A, the B, and the C labels, they are just labels. If you don't have them, that's not the end of the world. It just means that we can't label a side A, B. So we can still do Pythagoras. Right, pretty question? Remember, there's a pop-up to unmute yourself. Okay, I'm moving on. Robbie?
Hi, ma'am. I was asking, do we need to square everything, or the question paper will give us the hypothesis that has been squared like that one in the bracket?
No, you have to square everything. Okay, so you will have to do the squaring.
Okay, so even if they didn't give you the square next to the hypothesis bracket, we just need to square it because the rule.
Yes, because, so guys, really importantly, so the question also in the chat is, why does everything have to be squared? So why does it have to be squared? And Robbie's question, Pythagoras says that we're squaring the sides. The theorem is the side squared. So you have to actually go and square these sides. We are not going to give you the side squared. You have to know that Pythagoras says I have to square it. So you have to actually go and square it.
Okay, man.
Yeah?
Thank you very much.
Good. Right. So the question of why does everything have to be squared, I've answered. Bokomoso?
Ma'am, it's BK, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, BK. As I said it, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is BK. Sorry,
Ma'am,
losing my
I have
mind.
only one question, ma'am. If there's a pipe angle, ma'am, can there be more angles in a pipe angle?
Sorry, in a what angle?
Ma'am, for example, can there be, like, if there's a pipe angle, ma'am, can there be another angle that involves pipe?
No, Pythagoras only 90 degrees.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Interesting.
so only 90 degrees. Okay, so guys, sort of in relation to why do we square everything, back to BK's question here. Pythagoras only applies in right angled triangles. So Pythagoras saw the relationship of the squares in right angled triangles. That's why we use them. Okay, please remember to lower your hands once you've asked your question. Mahle?
Hi, Miss.
Hi.
Miss, can I ask what if you, in the exam, you wrote your answer as 225? Would you like get it wrong or?
Yeah, you haven't completed it. You have to do the square root in order to get the length. Right now, you've got the length squared. We just want the length. So we have to do the square root.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Tsabiso?
Ma'am, I was asking, does my 90 degrees angle has to be equals to 90?
Yes. So like I just said, it's always a 90-degree angle. It's always a right angle triangle.
No, I'm saying all my angles around the 90 degrees. Like for A and B, like C and B, something like that.
Well, you can only have one 90-degree angle in a triangle. So there's your 90-degree angle. This angle at A and this angle at C will be two different sizes.
Oh.
Okay, because remember, a triangle can only contain 180 degrees.
Oh, ma'am, can you also, is there also a way to find and check your answer if you're right?
Yeah, I suppose you can go backwards. So if you now put the 15 in here and you square it, you need to make sure you do end up with those two values squared. So you can check that the left is equal to the right.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'll try it now.
Sure. Okay, cool. Okay, grade 8s, any more questions, please put them on the chat. I'm moving on. So if we have a look at question C, we're going to identify where our hypotenuse is. So we go to our right angle, the side right opposite that 90-degree angle, that is our hypotenuse. So we get our highlighter and we take our highlighter and we identify our hypotenuse for ourselves. And so once again, we are looking for the hypotenuse. So X is our hypotenuse. And we have our two other sides. Again, it doesn't matter that I don't have the labels A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z, or any labels. That is immaterial. That doesn't really matter. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to find what X is. Right, so I want you guys to try this one by yourself. We've identified which side is the hypotenuse. You have the two other sides. Let's give this one a try. Okay, so those of you who still have questions, let's put them on the chat while everyone's trying and I can help you. Otherwise, you are giving this one a go. Okay, now grade 8s, I understand those of you in the chat asking, can we move on? I get it, but please also remember this is a lesson where we're supposed to be helping people, okay? So I do understand the frustration, but we need to be patient with each other and we need to be respectful of each other. Like, I get it, but we need to make sure that everyone is happy. Remember, you do have units here, so your answer should have the units. And we are not looking for X squared, we are looking for X, just X. Angel, so the question, okay. Yes, you have to put centimeters. Even though you're doing calculations, the lengths are still all in centimeters. Right, let's have a look. So we know what our hypotenuse is. It's the x that's been squared is equal to my 5 squared plus my 12 squared. And this is all because of Pythagoras. Okay, so x squared we're going to leave for now. We're going to deal with the other squared. So that's 25 plus 144. So we get that x squared is equal to 169. Again, I don't want x squared, I want x. So we have to square root in order to get rid of that squared, but I square root on both sides because remember what you do on one side of an equation, you have to do on the other. And so we get that x is equal to 13. Because the units are in centimeters, we know that this length is 13 centimeters. So we can put our units in when we are given units on the diagram or in the information of our question. Okay, so guys, your reason is not 90 degrees, it's not right angle, it's Pythag. That is your reason. That's it. There's no other option. The only other option is to abbreviate Pythag even more to PYTH, but it's Pythag. Right. So remember your units. Your reason is Pythag. And yes, you always have to give your reason. For every new Pythag question, you have to give your reason. It doesn't just disappear. It has to be there. Okay, you're going to try one more by yourselves. I'm going to leave question C up there in case you need some guidance. I'm not going to do anything for this one. Let's try this one by ourselves. So identify your hypotenuse. And then you can go and apply your Pythagoras according to the information you now have. Katano, yes, Pythag is still the reason there. We'll have a look at that in our next lesson if it's one of the other two sides, but it's still Pythag, yes. We will have a look at the converse of Pythag, but that's coming up. If you're calculating a side, you use Pythag. Remember, you do have units here, so you can put units into your answer. So everyone with just a number in your answer, you will get a mark off because you haven't put your units in. So please remember your units. As you know, the poll only goes up towards the end of the lesson. Unfortunately, you need to wait until it goes up. Well done, Amatle. That's really good.
But I put it up now. I thought that we will wait maybe for, we're not gonna squeeze in another one. Hey, maybe it's good for me to
No,
put
I'm
it
just
up.
gonna go through this one and then they can do it.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, so guys, absolutely, our hypotenuse is the x. So this is our Pythagoras. X squared is equal to 4 squared plus 3 squared, our reason being Pythag. You end up then with x squared is equal to 16 plus 9, and 16 plus 9 is 25. We don't want x squared, we want just x, so we need to go and square root both sides, and we get that x is equal to 5 centimeters. Please remember your centimeters. All right, so Pythag, nothing too stressful. We're substituting in. We just have to remember to do the square root, and we're able to get the side length of our triangle. Okay, so guys, I don't know if anyone's been screenshotting, but here are the 4 questions we've done. We need to do better next time. Please complete the poll. Please take your screenshots. Once you've done the poll, and please make sure you do the poll, you can go, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Yes, Boutle. Should be a pop. There we go.
Ma'am, please ask a question. Number B or C, number C, even if you change the way the numbers are, is it okay?
Yeah,
If you
so if
switch
you
the
said
numbers?
if you said 12 squared plus 5 squared, it's absolutely fine.